So welcome to Traders community. Let's succeed together. Give back to the community. I am Vishal Saraswat. I am a host. I am a group leader at Salesforce Developer Group, Gurgaon, India. You may connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter on the following link. Now I would like to hand over it to Ankush. So Ankush, over to you for the presentation and the group introduction.
Sure. Thanks,
Uh,
Vishal.
Let me stop sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Over to you, Ankush.
Yeah. Thanks. Hello, everyone. So I'm Ankush Agarwal, and today we will discuss about useful JavaScript concept for Lightning Web Components. And I am the group leader of Salesforce Developer Group Bhilwara, and this is the first session for the Bhilwara group. So we are having planning to come up with the new sessions on the new concept in Salesforce, just like this JavaScript on LWC, and in future we may come up with the all the new developments which are coming in the future releases. So I am currently working as a senior Salesforce developer at S&P Global. I am having more than 13 years of experience in IT, and from last 5 years, I am in Salesforce ecosystem. I have completed four Salesforce certifications, and I am 3x Ranger. I have completed all the super badges, and as I mentioned, I am the group leader of this Bhilwara group. Also, I have answered more than 4,000 answers with the 880 best answers on Salesforce community. So that's all about me. And now we'll start with the session. And once again, thanks a lot for joining, everyone.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ankush. So, in the meanwhile, I would like to urge each and everyone to share on the social media because Ankush is means today is our first session of Bhilwara group. So, I would like to urge you to please spare some words on social media and please tag us so that we can and because we have the certification voucher for social media winners as well, which we will be going to give away after our series means after wrapping up of yesterday tomorrow's session we will be going to give away the certification voucher for social media winner, so please spread the word as much as possible. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Ankush.
Yeah, thanks, Vishal, for mentioning this. Yeah, so we have one certification voucher for social media who will be spreading about the this event, and we'll announce tomorrow end of the day. So maybe we'll connect directly with the winners for the social media. And we also have so okay, let me start with the agenda. So we'll start with the basic JavaScript, like what are variables over there, what is JSON, what type of operators there in the JavaScript, and then we'll discuss about arrays and their methods. So at the end of this session, we'll have Q&A. After that, we'll have Kahoot quiz, where we'll also give away the certification vouchers to the winners. Okay, so let's start with the first topic, which is JavaScript variable. So variable in so JavaScript is little bit different from Apex or Java. So here things work little different. So as here we can define a variable with these three either var, lat, or const. And if we'll not mention anything, then also that variable will be defined. So now I'll go to the JavaScript console. So on any web browser, you can just or on the Google browser, you can just click on the inspect and you can click on the console section. So here we can just will do our hands-on today. Like okay, so first we'll discuss like what are different type of ways to define a variable. So we have like where or let or we have const. So we have these three types, and if we are not defining any of these, then also the variable will be defined and we can use that variable. So first we'll talk about where, and hopefully it's visible to everyone, I think.
So guys, please put up your comments in the chat window, so we will be aware about that. Are you able to see or not?
So if we define variable a equal to 10, so we can just check the value of a and it's 10. So just it's a where or let. So if we use let as 20, so this way we can just define and use it. Now, what is the difference between where or let? So let me give you an example. If I print y in console and I have defined it as where y. Okay, sorry, y is already defined. So okay, so it y1 value will be undefined because whenever the code will execute, so that variable will be defined with the undefined if we use where. But if we do the same with let, then it will not allow us. So if I take another example with the let, then it will give me a reference error. So if we'll use let, so let is newly introduced in ES6. So where like let will be worked as a normal variable, but if we use where, it will be by default having value undefined, and the user will not get error. So it's always recommended like until unless it is not required, we should not use where. Instead, we should use let. So if we'll be using somewhere else this x1 and it will give a reference error instead of the undefined value, which is a valid value in case of JavaScript. Also, we can define variables without any prefix, and it's just like we can use this variable. And next is different type of data type. So if I check what is the type of the Z1 variable, so I'll just type the type of and Z1. So it's a number variable. And now I'll try with the next, which is let's suppose name, and if I check what is the type of name, which is a string. Okay, and similar way, Boolean and other for other variables, we can just use type of, and we'll just check what will be the type of that particular variable. So next is we'll talk about object. So object can be defined as a key value pair, just like it is having like curly braces, inside curly braces, first property name, then colon, and then the what will be the value. And with the comma, you can just add more properties to the particular object. And if we check type of object, then it is object. Okay, similar way, if we have a variable of date type and it is having value as date, and if we check type of new date, then it's also an object. So a type of can be used to validate what will be the value data type of that particular variable. And next we have different type of operators. So most of the operators work similar fashion what we have in the other languages. So if I type like A3 and if I add something, so it will be just like in any other language. So it will just print this. And similar way, the another subtraction or multiply will work. The difference will, since it's not type bound and you can define any value to any variable. So if I am assigning some different value to this variable or different data type, so let's suppose hello, and if I check type of A3, now it is changed to string because sorry, because we have assigned a string value to A3. So that's why its type is now string. So here there is no restriction of like whatever you have initialized any value to a variable, later you can change it. So you have to be very careful while working on the Lightning Web components. What what type of values you are storing or what type of values you are using for a particular variable. So here another difference with the operator is if I try to add a string with a numeric value, I can do it and it will be like hello 3. But if I mention hello 3 and then I try to add number 2, then it will just treat them as a different alphanumeric value. So it will just concatenate 3 and 2 to hello. So with the string, the plus sign will work as a concatenation. And if we have only numeric values, it will be like just adding. But there is a catch. So let me take a new example, a new variable, and let me assign some value hello, then 12. And if I want to subtract 2, and so yeah, A4 is not a number because we are first it will work in a precedence manner. So first it will concatenate hello and 12 and then it will try to subtract 2 from hello 12, which is a string, and string cannot be subtracted with the numeric value, so that's why it is a nan. So it's also a valid value in JavaScript, which is not a number. So nan can be, you may get sometimes nan while you're working on the Lightning Web component. So you have to be careful while you are performing any calculations or mathematical calculations. So what you have to make sure, because from the front end it may be in object manner. So let me give you one more example. If I take a new variable A5 and there is another way to use number values. So so if I check A5, which is 12, and it is 12, but it is having different. If I check type of A5, which is an object. And let's suppose I'm creating a new variable A6 and it is having value 10. Or let me assign it to 12. So A5 is also having 12 and A6 is also having 12. So now if I compare these two variables, so A5 equal to A6, and I'll just print both are same. Not equal. So what we are getting is the A5 and A6 are having same value, both are same because the 12 is equal to 12. But we have another operator over here. So we have double equal to and we have triple equal to, which will be check the data type as well. Since any variable can have any data type. So if I use this and if I just change the double equal to triple equal, then I'll get not equal because A5 is having different data type and A6 is having different data type. So in while working with the LWC, you have to be careful while using double equal to operator or triple equal to operator. So in general, ideally we should use triple equal, but in case of these type of numeric comparison, you may use double equal as well because sometimes we get values from the front end side which may be in the object form, and whatever you have defined in your JavaScript code could be in the simple number form. So that's why either you may use, so you have to be careful about using double equal to and triple equal to. So in case of if we are comparing string values, you can use triple equal and it will just check for the string values. But if you are using, you are having numbers and different type of calculations, then you have to be careful. Also, as I was mentioning about the operators like this plus minus and this one. So we'll have new example. We have hello, again the similar way 10. Now I want to multiply it with some value. So last time when we used a minus, so we get the value as nan. But now what we'll do, we'll instead we'll use multiply. And now we'll check value of a, which is 50, and then concatenate it with hello. So why we get the different while I was using minus or while I'm using this multiplication. So multiplication or divide will have a more precedence than the plus or minus, since plus and minus having same precedence. So in that case, if the same precedence is there, it will just go from left to right. So from left to right, when we check it, first we have hello, then 10. So it will just concatenate it and then try to subtract 5, which is not a number. But in case of multiplication, so first, because multiplication is having more precedence than the sum. So it will just first multiply 10 with the 5, which is 50, and then concatenate to hello. So the output will be hello 50. So you have to be careful here because these are the differences which may occur while working on the LWC. Okay, so then we have and or operator. So it is just like what we have in our Apex or Java or any other language. So it works in the similar manner. So let me show you one example. Okay, so I have variable a, which is 10, and x is false. And I have you or operator over here. So either x should be true or a is greater than should be true. So if I print either x is false or a is less than 10. So it went into else because there is none of the values were satisfying the condition. So if I make it 12, so either x is true or a is greater than 10. So in this case, a is greater than 10. So that's why we are getting this value. Similar way and will work. Okay. And one more thing I want to mention before this. So let's suppose we have a new variable which is x2 and it doesn't have any value. And if I want to check if x2 is having a value or not, so what we can do, let me take an example. Okay, so if I have if x2 and then I have to print x is having value else x is either null or undefined or zero or blank. So here, if we just check if x2, we can use if x2 with any type of variable, and so it will just print, it will go every time in the else other if it is not having a valid value. So if I have x2 as 0, and now I will try again this if condition, then axis still went into the else part because it's having the 0 value. So if you want to check any variable, if any variable is having valid value or not, so you should use this if and x2 directly. So if I try and update x2 with 10, and again if I check this condition, then x is having some value. So this time x2 is value is 10, which is a valid value. So you can use x2 as in directly in the if condition if you want to just check for this. So this and or will work as in the what it worked in other languages. Now we'll move to the next, which is class. So class is recently introduced, which is in year 6, and class is just like it's just encapsulate data and functions. So inside a class, we can define variables or we can have functions as well. So the only difference with the other languages is like the constructor will always have with the main constructor. So uh, if you want to use constructor, then you just have to mention constructor and name. And then, and if you want to pass any parameter, otherwise the constructor must be with the keyword constructor. Okay, and in Java, in LWC also in our JavaScript, we have a class by default. LWC creates a class for us, and inside class we just define different variables or we just define different functions. So there we can just define the variables and use them in a function. So as displayed over here, if you want to use any variable defined inside the class, we just have to use this dot name. So the global variables can be used with this keyword, and local variables can be used directly. So inside a class, if you want to use any global variable, then you have to use this keyword. So you just be careful that you have to use this keyword if you want to utilize any uh, global variable. Okay, next we'll talk about array. So arrays are like a special type of variables which can hold more than one values, and it can have any type of values, whether it's a numeric value or object or anything. So in JavaScript, arrays are not primitives, but these are like objects, as I mentioned. So these are not primitives. In generally, arrays are primitives, but in JavaScript, arrays are not primitives. And you can modify its size anytime. You can just update it, or you can just change the values of the arrays. And arrays are indexed with the zero. So first value will be start with the zero. So indexing will start from the zero, and then with the length minus one. So whatever the array size will be there, minus one will be the last. And array copy operation create shallow copy. So I'll just give you a demo. So how the array copy will create the shallow copies. Okay, so we'll create a new array, and we'll have just some random values in it. 10. Okay, and now if I check type of new array, so it's an object. Okay, now if I want to create a new variable, which is let arr1, and if I assign new arr and if I print array1, then it is same like what we had in new array. It will have the same values. But let's suppose, so how we can access these values in an array? So new array, and then you just can have these braces, and you can mention like which position you want. So since it starts from zero, and if I mention zero, so it will be the first element of the array. And if I five, so here we will receive undefined. So if array doesn't hold like fifth position, so it start with 0, 1, 2, 3. So it is just having values until 3. So if I mention new array 5, it will just give me undefined. So if you want to check like whether the value exists or not, and so you just can check if the new array and the position is having value as undefined, means that particular location is not exist, or that array doesn't have that particular position. Okay, now if I change new array, so if I want to change its third position value, and I want to make it to 14 instead of 4, and if I check with the new array, so now new array will have value as 14. But on the top we have array 1, which is having a new array as value. And if I print array 1, so array 1 is also having 14. So you have to be careful. In some cases, what we do is like we just hold a value inside array 1 just to keep it like for the future, and we just update the new array. But actually, array 1 and new array are referring to the same value. So you have to be careful about it. So just to overcome, let's suppose you want to make it a separate array. Then what you can do, let arr1 json dot stringify, or before this we have another option we have like this three dots and then new array. So if I print array 1, it is having the same value. Now I will try to change new array, the second position, which is 14, and I'll change back to 4. And if I try to see array 1 is still having 14, and new array is changed now. So if you want to have a separate array which should not impact the existing array, then you have to use either these three dots, or there is another way which you can use. So if I define new variable array2, and I can use JSON dot parse, and inside it I can mention JSON dot stringify, and here I will mention new array. Okay, and if I print array2, so it is printing the latest values. But if I change the new array values, and its first position, if I change it to 13, so new array will have 13 on first position. And if I check array 2, then it is still having 3 because we have used JSON.parse and then JSON.stringify. So you may have to use this one or either that uh, triple dot operator. So what in LWC, what happens whenever we'll fetch any value from the Apex side? So in that case, what happens? Mostly the whatever value you are receiving, that will be in the read-only mode. And if you want to perform any operation on that particular array or that whatever variable you are receiving from the Apex side. So in that case, that is read only, and you cannot update the, just like we have updated the first position as 13. So it will give an error to you, but it will be a runtime error. So you will not receive an error while typing it, but when you execute it, you will get an error. So if you are getting error something which is not changeable or on in the read only mode, so then in that case you have to create a new array and just either use json.parse and stringify, or you can use this triple dot and new array. So this way you can just detach these two, and this particular this is only used with the array. But if you have any object and if you want to make it separate, so you can use json.parse and json.stringify just to make it different from that particular object. Okay, next we'll move to the different methods. So most of the times we receive list of like accounts or list of contacts or list of opportunities on the front end side, and we have to perform some operations on those particular lists. So we have different methods of array which can be used while working on the different arrays which we are receiving from the Apex. So first we have at, so we can define an index and just what we have done with the bracket. So similar way, this at is work in the similar fashion. So if we want at particular position we want to get some value, so then we can use it. But let's suppose, so we'll take this new array and we'll try new, let a equals to new array dot at. So what is the difference between having that particular position over here? If I mention -1 and if I check the value, what it is doing, it starts from the end of the array. So if I mention minus, then it will start from the end of the array. And if we have the positive values, then it will start from the left side. So this is the difference, which if you want to get the values from the previous from the last element, then you can just use either -1 or -2. So let's suppose if I take -3, then A will have 13, which is like 1, 2, 3. So it will just go in the reverse direction if we mention the minus over here. Then we have find. So for the find variable, we have find method. If we use let b equals to new array dot find. So this is having we have to pass over here the callback function. So callback function we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. So I'll just mention the syntax for now. So you can mention element or you can mention x, and then this is an arrow function, and here we can have like if x is having value greater than 10. So what it will do, it will just iterate on each of the element and it will check if 2 is greater than 10, if 13 is greater than 10. So if I print B, so I'll just have first value, whatever the first value comes in that particular array. So 13 will be printed if we use find. So similar way, find index will be just get the index of that particular element. So in this case, if we use the find index, and if we check the value, so the position of that particular array will be like the 13 is on the first position, so we'll get the value as 1. In similar way, index of 8. So what will be the index? It is quite similar. Find index and index of is same. The only difference is here you can pass just value, and here you have to pass the callback function, which where you can mention some logic as well. So mostly when we work with the array of an object, then in that case we can just define like if you want to perform any specific criteria or we want to mention any criteria. So this find index is more powerful, although it may take a little more time because it will just iterate all the elements and then will give the result. But in case if we are working on the array of an object, which usually whatever we get like list of account or list of contact from the apex side, so that is called as an array of an object. So in that case we can use find index to fetch particular account. Similar way, includes is like check whether this particular value is exist or not, so its values either true or false. If value exists, then the output will be true, otherwise false. And last index of is, as we have seen for now, like find index or index of was getting whatever the first value. But if you want to, if we, in this example, we have like 12 two times, and if we check last index of 12, then in that case, we'll get the 5. So in case if value is not present in that particular array, so in case of these two, we'll find undefined. In find index case, we'll get the -1. So these you can utilize in the checking the condition. If undefined, we are getting undefined, then we can just skip, like we are not receiving any value on that case. So you can use if not present to check negative condition if value is not present. Okay, next set of methods are pop, push, shift, and shift. So we'll just see the example over here. So new array, we have this array which is having these values. And now, so first is method is pop. Okay, let me, okay, and if I check value, then 10. So it will just pop out the last value of the array. So what it will do, in this case, we have this array, and if we type pop, so it will just remove the last value and it will just give us that particular element. So in this case, values having 12 and array is reduced by one element. So this 12 is removed from the array. And push is the opposite of pop. So it will just add the value at the end of the array. And shift is just opposite of pop. So it will just remove the first element and give us the output. So value will be 5. And from array, if we see, the 5 is removed. Unshift is again the same. Like if the beginning of the array, if we want to add some value, then we can use unshift. And then we have slice. So slice is, as its name suggests, like if you want to have a subset of array. So in this case, until position number 2, it will just get the values. So we'll have like 5, 12, and 8 if we slice this particular array until to position number 2. And next is splice. So splice is having three parameters. First is on which position you want to insert, and then next is how many elements you want to remove, and then what value you want to insert. Okay, so we'll see this example over here and try value or let result equals to new array dot splice. And as it is having three parameters, first is from start. So we have like first position, which is 30. And now how many delete count, how many elements you want to delete. So let's suppose I have mentioned two, and which item you want to insert. So let me insert 23 over here. And if I check new array, so it has removed 13 and 4. Okay, sorry. So this 2 means until what position? So it has removed 13, 4, and 10, and it has inserted 23 over here. Okay, so this is the difference. The splice work in this manner. If I want to, if I don't want to remove any element, and if I want to just add new parameter and new array. So it just inserted at the position number 1. So 34 is inserted and 23 is shifted automatically. And result will have, so result will have this since we haven't removed anything. So in earlier case, if as we have removed like 13, 4, and 10, so it was like 13, 4, and 10. So let me show you it again. New array. And if I remove 2, so result will have 13 and 4. Okay, next is, so this is last set of methods, which is like filter, for each, map, and flat map. So filter is basically, as its name suggests, if you want to filter out some of the values. So in result, in this case, what will it will just filter out which are having values greater than 10. So it's straightforward. And if you want to filter out, then you can use filter. Next is for each, which is like if you want to perform some operation on a particular array. And if you want to go through each element of the array and want to perform some operation, then you can use for each. And the map is similar to for each. The difference is you can just get the map in the different means you can just manipulate that particular array as well. So here we'll just will not get any output. We'll just perform an operation. But in map, we'll have a new array and we can just manipulate the values of that particular array. Then flat map is the combination of map and filter, and it will just give us the new array along with if you want to have, we want to define some criteria, or if you want to uh, filter out, or so here we can either add more elements to the array or we can remove some of the elements from the array. So let me give you an example. So first we'll talk about for each. So we have an array which is having three values, and so let me try with this first. So we just want to print the element in the console. So it will just print ABC. So now next is if you want to see the what is the index inside this particular callback function. So here we have defined two parameters, element and index. And we are printing the index. So index is nothing but just the position of the different elements. So it will just print 0, 1, and 2. And we have another parameter over here. So the third parameter in this callback function is ARR. So ARR nothing but array 1. So if you want to update something on array 1, then you can just use this ARR, and you can just update this ARR with the element value and whatever you want to perform operation. So in this case, I am concatenating Z with the existing elements. And if I try to print it, and if I check array 1, so it's AZ, BZ, CZ. So it is just appending the Z at the end of the array. So more generally, we just use for each if you want to perform a specific operation on all the elements, because we cannot come out from the for each just in like in traditional for loop. So for each is only used when you have to perform a specific operation on all the elements. Also, if you want to update that particular array inside for each, so you can use this particular syntax to just update that particular array. Next, we'll talk about a flat map, which is like having multiple features. So is we are just extending this particular array. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in array, and inside flat map we have there is two difference from the for each or map. Like it is having like brackets, and inside that it is x comma x multiplied by 2. So what we are doing, we are printing first element, then we are multiplying it with the 2, and then we are printing another element. So what it is doing, it is creating subset of array for each element and then giving us a new array which is having like all those elements. So earlier in the array we were having only 4 elements, and now we have 8 elements, since we there is a flexibility which where we can just add more elements to it. So if you want to perform the similar operation with the for loop, so to you have to just first find out the array length. What is the array length? Then you have to create a new array which is having size n into 2, which is like twice of this particular length, and then you have to perform for loop. So this is little bit you have to write more, and it's not neat and clean. But if you talk about the performance, so it is having a very poor performance flat map, since first it will just create a temporary array, and then it is giving an output the final array, which is like in between it is creating a temporary array and then passing it to the main array. So it will be taking longer time. But if you have array with a size of less than 100 or few hundred, in that case you can use flat map, because it will not make much difference, but it will be a neat and clean solution if you want to just add or remove some elements and you want to perform some additional operation on that particular array. So in that case you should use flat map, but be careful if your array is having a lot of elements, then you should avoid flat map in that case. Also, there is last point, like with the flat map, we can also have, so we can have here multiple conditions. So if I mention some condition, if x is less than 1, and then I want to pass, so I can just pass an empty array, and else let me make it little bit cleaner. Okay, so you can define here if condition, if x is less than 1 or make it less than 2, then just pass nothing, else it will just pass this. Okay, let me. hmm. Okay, there is a syntax error. So since I haven't used this particular, because we have multiple lines, so in this arrow functions, if you have multiple set of lines, then you have to use curly braces. Okay, so I'm just getting undefined over here. Okay, refresh it. Hmm, I think it is not going in the else part, not sure why. Okay, but we can have if condition just to return a different set of arrays, or we want to skip some elements, then we can use if condition and we can just get the values. So yeah, that's all for today's session. And if anyone has any questions, so so Vishal,
Ankush, someone
in
has mentioned. Ankush,
Yeah,
someone has mentioned in the chat that the use return in if and else might be it can
yeah,
work.
yeah, 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 yeah. It will work, right? There must be return. Yeah. Thanks for the catching the error. So here now we can check. We have six elements. So since we less than two is only one element, so it just skipped the first element and it just get the two, three, and four, and it just updated with the two, four, three, six, and four, eight. So this manner we can have like either we can add or remove. So if I just take it out and mention it with two, so new array will have just only three elements since the first element is skipped. So if we want to reduce some elements or we want to filter out, and at the same time we want to perform some operation on that element, so we can use this flat mesh, but just make sure that its performance is a little bit poor because we are creating this temporary array and then it is returning the new array. So just make sure that the array doesn't have much elements in this, then you can utilize the flat map. So yeah, any questions?
So I can see Ankush some of the questions like what is the difference between null and undefined?
Yeah, so null is null is separate value and undefined is the value. So let's suppose I have created a variable, let's say. So Z is not defined. So Z doesn't contain any values. So if I update Z as null, then it is having something inside it. So that's why it is different from the anything else. So null is a separate operator over here, and it will be considered as a separate value, and undefined is a different one. So undefined is like you have defined the value, but you haven't initialized or you haven't updated any value inside it. Yeah. So
Uh, and if user want to subscribe more than two with validation, then is it possible?
sorry.
I
So
can see like if user wants to subscribe more than two with validation, then it's possible.
I'm not able to get the question.
Shelja, can you please describe more, a little bit more about this question? What you are looking to ask?
So in if you are talking about if condition, like if you want to add like multiple values inside if or validation is, are you talking about this?
In if condition, yeah. Yes, in if condition.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you can
In if
mention.
condition, you can add any number of like conditions if you want, or you can of different conditions as we have in any other languages. So as I mentioned, this and or operator will work in the similar fashion, which usually works in the different languages. So here we can have like A or B, and so any combination will work. In this manner, you can mention any combination based on your requirement.
Other question is like, what is the maximum number of characters we can store in a string data type?
String data type, I also need to check that. Maybe I'll check and get back to you in tomorrow's session. But yeah, you can store a huge number, but I need to check the specific like size. What could be the specific size?
I think we are good with the questions, but I can't see any more questions in the chat window. So, Ankush, in the meanwhile, you can start for the Kahoot. Okay. And
Sure.
guys, please share your feedback, like what you feel about this session. As tomorrow we will be coming up with our next session. That is a part of this series JavaScript. So please share your feedback so that we can improve. And what is the next series you are looking to have? So please let us know your feedback. That would be very helpful for us.